We'll do the male reproductive system today. Let's talk a little bit about its functions. Gamete production, in this case, sperm production, transport of that sperm to the outside, and then hormone production. Let's take a look at the anatomy of the male reproductive system. Sperm is produced within the testes, the male gonad. Now, more specifically, within that testes, we have the seminiferous tubules, long tubes in which the process of meiosis occurs, and which is the production of gametes or sperm. So that sperm then is stored within the epididymis. The epididymis is also a system of tubes in which the sperm are stored and mature. Also within the testes there are interstitial cells which produce the male androgens, mainly testosterone. Surrounding the testis, we have a fibrous capsule called the tunica albuginea, and then lining that, okay, or surrounding that, will be the tunica vaginalis, which is the serous membrane. It's kind of a derived from the peritoneum as the testes descend into the pouch here called the scrotum. So the scrotum is the pouch, and then it's further surrounded by the tunica vaginalis and then the tunica albuginea. Okay, the albuginea is the connective tissue capsule. The vaginalis is the serous membrane, and then there's a parietal and a visceral layer to that, and then the outer layer is the scrotum, which is the pouch that holds the male testis. One thing to note is that the testes actually originate within the body cavity, and during development those testes will descend down to reside in the scrotum. Occasionally some individuals, the testes don't descend, and that condition is called Cryptorchidism. It means hidden flower. So if those testes don't descend, they remain in the body cavity, and the body temperature is too high for proper sperm formation, so those individuals would become sterile. But you know, they can be surgically forced to descend into the scrotum. All right, from here, the sperm will make its way out the ductus deferens, or the vas deferens, which is a tube that transports it out to the final leg, which is the urethra. All right. Now, ductus deferens or vas deferens. If a man has a vasectomy would be cutting and tying off that vas deferens or the ductus deferens to prevent the sperm from leaving. Now, would that affect the final volume of semen? Okay, if you had a vasectomy, it's not letting the sperm leave. All right, so how does that affect the volume? And the answer to that is no, because if we follow along here, there's this little duct here called the ejaculatory duct, which I didn't write in here, but into which accessory glands secrete their secretions into the semen, and there's three types of accessory glands. The paired seminal vesicles, there's two of them, the single prostate gland, and the paired bulbourethral glands. And all these three will add volume to the secretion. They add about 99% of the volume of semen, whereas the sperm produces only about 1% of the total volume. So, you know, you have a vasectomy, it's not going to affect the volume. All right, so again, those are the three glands that all contribute volume to the semen, nutrients, etc. And then that from there, the sperm will make its way out the penile urethra here, and then out of the body. A couple things to note: the location of the prostate. It's inferior to the urinary bladder. The urinary bladder is here, this black portion here, and then the prostate gland sits right underneath it. And actually the there is a prostate urethra that will add urine from the urinary bladder in also, because remember, the urethra is part of not only the reproductive part of the male, but also the urinary part of the male also. All right, so let's take a look here now at the penis. Within the penis, there's specialized tissue called erectile tissue. They're venous sinuses that get filled with blood to cause an erection. And that there's two different types, or two different columns of this erectile tissue. There's the corpus cavernosum, which is located here. It's more anterior, all right, in the penis. And then the corpus spongiosum, which is more posterior. Now the corpus spongiosum, the way to remember is that it surrounds the penile urethra. So all this blue around the urethra is all corpus spongiosum. The corpus cavernosum, I put 2 here because there's actually 2 columns of cavernosum. So it's actually corpora cavernosa, which is plural, the 2 columns of erectile tissue that, that fill with blood to cause an erection. Let's see, what else can we talk about? All right, a couple things about the penis. The glans penis is this, the expanded end there, the head of the penis, or the tip of the penis. There's also a prepuce, which I didn't draw in here, which is the foreskin. The foreskin is a kind of a piece of skin that lies over the glans, and that can be removed, and here in America, I think many males are circumcised, which is the removal of that foreskin or prepuce and that, and then of course other countries, other religions or groups will keep the foreskin. So all right, I think that's about it for the male reproductive system.